Disaster.
Ay, Dios mío. Esto es una puta locura.
Destruction. Anger.
This takes me back to November 2016 in Alexandra, Johannesburg. 8 years later, that memory remains fresh. I now leave Madrid, headed for Valencia, for another story of loss and survival.
And to meet a South African family who experienced disaster firsthand. As weather patterns intensify due to climate change, impacting every part of the globe, the coastal city of Valencia in Spain became the latest victim. A vicious storm named Dana swept over it in late October. A year's worth of rainfall fell in just 8 hours, more than 300 liters per square meter. As vast parts of the inland coast were submerged, over 200 people died, and many more are still missing.
I've covered a lot of disasters as a journalist, but in 15 years of reporting, I've never witnessed something of this magnitude. This is really something else. The sheer power of the floods washed away walls and pieces of entire buildings and bounced cars around like stones. This vehicle graveyard in the south of the city of Valencia is a chilling reminder to just how brutal the storms were. 3 weeks after the disaster, they remain being stacked up here by authorities as part of rescue and cleanup operations. A grotesque monument, if you will, to the sheer force of Mother Nature.
The Spanish army was deployed as part of the recovery. Things won't be back to normal anytime soon. Those affected remain shell-shocked, like Valencian resident Amparo Ruiz.
El gobierno ha venido ayuda, lo que pasa es que tenía que haber venido mucho antes. Tenían que haber venido las ayudas mucho antes, porque aquí dijéramos, hasta que no pasó una semana casi, aquí no recibimos ayuda de ninguna parte.
The Dana weather system that delivered these monster storms is a natural phenomenon, expected every year, but not to this extent. While climate change played a huge role in the severity of the storm, Dr. 𝗵𝗶𝗀𝗶𝘀 of the University of Valencia argues that many factors were at play.
One of them is the urbanism. So the way we constructed the houses, which are actually settled within a flooded area with a very dangerous streams all around.
Hundreds of thousands were affected. Among the survivors are South African couple Lindie and Lindie Jackson.
Luckily, our house is up on the hill, but the water came up right to here, and it was pitch black. Everything there was covered, like as you can see there, like it tore down the walls. It came up to his balcony.
That morning, Lindie and Ryan kept their kids at home as family were visiting from South Africa. She then made a shopping trip to the local mall with her mother-in-law, some 20 minutes away, when the rain began pelting down.
There was no civil alert, no other warnings. It was more like internally driven by people sending videos and photos. We started driving back home with like heavy traffic, and we had to do a detour because the bridge here was completely underwater.
Just over a kilometer from home, Lindie got stranded as flash floods ripped through her neighborhood.
The road, it's a river.
What went through your mind when the car got stuck?
That I wasn't gonna go home. I was like, this is not how I wanna go. You know, like, I need one last moment at least. So I was like, no, I'm going home. I'm going home and I'm putting all the kids in my bed.
You decided you had to get home come hell or high water.
As I put my leg in, like, my whole foot went in, it was way too deep and it like pulled me. We knew we couldn't cross at this point.
As Lindie sat tight, Ryan left home to rescue her. But he didn't make it further than a few hundred meters before he had to abandon his car and swim to safety.
I got out of my car and I was literally in water above, you know, literally under my chest. No matter how many times I walk you through it, it'd show you and tell you, you know, kind of how intense it was.
𝗀𝗵𝗶𝘀 was the Director General of Climate Change Planning in the Valencian government for 3 years, before the role was scrapped under a new administration.
We have a lot of forecast services, protocols, but those protocols were not activated. Nobody took decisions previous or even during the event until it was too late.
So basically what you're telling me is that this regional government not only doesn't believe in climate change, but it ignored its own warnings from its own system?
Yes, that's it. That's right.
Lindie waited out the deluge and eventually waded home to safety, where Ryan and the kids were waiting. It was a matter of 20 minutes that saved her life. The mall was one of the first buildings to be completely submerged.
I spoke to a friend and she's like, yo, the angels were watching you, and we keep saying, like, where was everyone else's angels? Like, I mean, it's unreal. Like, we were super lucky, like, in so many ways. How our house was positioned, not sending the kids to school, leaving them all at that point. I thank God every day.
In the days following the disaster, the people of Valencia revolted, throwing mud at Spanish King Felipe when he visited affected areas. Furious at what they believed was an incompetent response from the government.
Do you think that there would have been this many deaths had they actually taken warnings from their own system?
I don't think so. For sure, the highways, the houses would have been flooded, but all the amount of people that was out of their houses, those people shouldn't have even go to work, according to the red alert that the meteorological system was issuing at 8 a.m.
Are we beginning to see the very worst of climate change?
No, this is the beginning.
The Jacksons are grateful they survived, but are wary of them or their children becoming eventual victims of a rapidly changing climate in a world where governments fail to plan for disasters like this.
I think that kind of always just holds on the heart of it ever happened again. I mean, I think we beat it unlike so many, you know? We're this close to coming short.